Why are we called Negroes? Why are we deaf, dumb, and blind? Why is everybody making progress, yet we seem to be lagging so far behind? Why are we mistreated? Why are we in this condition, stripped of our name, our language, our culture, our God, and our religion? Here in America, all of our religious training has been gotten by the preacher. He has told us of a heaven way up in the sky that we can't enjoy now, but rather after we die. But all of the years that we're living, for us there's nothing but hell, pain, torture, and misgiving. Yet the Bible speaks of a heaven filled with material luxury, which the white man and the preacher has right here, so we see. So my friend, take it for what it's worth. Your heaven and your hell is right here on this earth. So let's check back into history, which rewards all research and tells us plainly that before the white man gained entry to the East, he was living in the caves of Europe, a ravenous beast, eating juniper roots and eating flesh raw, till God sent Moses to civilize him and teach him the law. Then, following Marco Polo, an explorer, he gained entry into Asia and Africa. From China, he took silk and gunpowder. From India, he took jute, manganese, and rubber. He raped Africa of her diamonds and her gold. From the Mideast, he took barrels of oil untold, raping, robbing, and murdering everything in his path. The whole black world has tasted of the white man's wrath. So, my friend, it's not hard to tell. A white man's heaven is a black man's hell. America, we were living in the East. By the Nile River, we were living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes and slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is black man hell. When the white man came to America, he told the Indian, I am your white brother. He said, red man, I'll treat you the best. Yet and still he pushed the Indian further west with his white woman and firewater. Tricks and lies, he stole America. The original owner of this nation is cooped up on a reservation. So, my friend, it's easy to tell.
Welcome back, everyone. Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. on the East Coast, or a little bit after, maybe like 5 minutes after. Over here in West Africa, it is 12:05. And I'm feeling good on this Tuesday morning. And I wanted to continue because, okay, we spoke about schizophrenia, we spoke about mental health, we spoke about these different things. And so I'm going to continue on with depression. And I only wanted to speak about one aspect of the mental health, but when I started to do a little research, I was like, wait a second. A lot of these things seem to overlap. And many of us, we tend to get it mixed up. We tend to self-diagnose, and when we self-diagnose, we don't have to go to the doctor. You know what I mean? Like, because this is such an intangible thing that we don't see. So we tend to not want to go to get any help. And I'm going to say a lot of things I've said on some prior shows we had recently because they hold true even for this particular topic. And we in the Black community, we just take it as a sign of weakness that if we go to get help on that level, then there's something wrong with us. And we're going to counter back with, I'm not crazy and there's nothing wrong with me. But most of the time, I would say 100% of the time, like I said yesterday and the day before, if you feel your ankle is sprained, you're not just going to say, I'm not weak, I'm just not going to the doctor. That's pain and it hurts. And you're not able to live your life the way you usually live your life. But if it's an ankle, you will quickly find yourself at the emergency room or a doctor, whatever. You have no problem with that. But when it's something on a mental level where we can break down or we can have issues mentally, we in the Black community, it's a taboo subject. We don't want to go because we take it as weakness and we think that people are going to think that we're crazy. I'm not crazy. And I just don't understand where the stigma came from. I just don't understand because we who have suffered so much, we've suffered so much. Yes, other people have suffered, but what I mean, our suffering continues to this day in this so-called modern society where it's almost where we have to ignore what's going on with us and carry on with the rest of the other people who have their support systems and have their communities intact. Yes, all communities have fringe members of those communities that are haters, that are opposed diametrically to those in the majority. But I'm going to tell you one thing, it ain't like us. It ain't like us. For all the issues that we have living in this world today, with the institutionalized racism, with the structural racism, with the direct racism, that's very much real. Oh, you're always talking about that damn racism. Why don't you shut up with that? People always say that. So I'm going to have to remind you, if you look at the screen on the bottom, scrolling across, racism is a process by which systems and policies, actions and attitudes create inequitable opportunities and outcomes for people based on race. This is from your Oxford Languages Dictionary and Google's. Let's say it again so we just negate those stupid behind comments that are going to come on in. Racism is the process by which systems and policies, actions and attitudes create inequitable opportunities and outcomes for people based on race. So it's more than just somebody calling you the N-word. It's more than that. And when we say policies, are we speaking possibly also about politicians, policies and laws? Huh? Systems, actions, attitudes. The Karens on the front line. How about that Karen who might be your gynecologist, but she doesn't act like a Karen? And she might not be able to reproduce, and you can. And she don't like that. Maybe if you trust her a lot, she's going to make it where you can't have children by what she gives you. I'm just making stuff up. So it's not just somebody saying something to you or not liking you. So now living in a society where we may have others who are in denial of these things that are happening, we have a lot of Clarence Thomases out here, amply named in his last name, even though we found out that Uncle Tom wasn't a bad dude. He was really the revolutionary. I didn't know that. But for all intents and purposes, we say, you Uncle Tom. I understand. We have those who want to fit so badly into the system that if they were required to chop their left hand off, trust me, they'll do it. And when you speak of an issue in that society that brings you into a state of depression and clinical depression, they ignore you. They don't want you to bring these things up. They want you to wish it away, like it can go away. In the subsequent clinical depression, that's riding your back, that's very much real. You're dismissed. You'll get over it. Just take a little more time. You need to get stronger. It doesn't mean that you're weak. But we have so many fools out here who never picked up a book to read or even go on a website to research what these things are. And those of us in the Black community, a lot of us don't read. But we got a whole lot of damn stuff to say now, don't we? We walking around like we a doctor. You watch a little Dr. Oz or some little program or 5-minute YouTube video, and now you know everything. And you want to throw off on somebody in your family. You want to throw off on a friend that thinks you're a friend, but you're not a friend. You're just somebody hanging around until their downfall. Ain't that something? So many of us who have to do the same things that other people have to do, we're in the system. We have to pay bills. We have to take care of our children. Yes, we love to take care of our children. So it's not a have to, but you have to. It's not a burden. Some of us have special needs, family members that it may be a brother who doesn't have a wife. And we got to take them on in and deal with the visiting nurse that comes by who doesn't do enough, most often sitting there on a cell phone, getting paid. So we know we have to take care of that individual, whether it's a brother or a sister or a mother or a child with special needs. And so we got our own special needs of maintenance. But usually we have to sacrifice our health mentally, spiritually, and physically because we have to be something to someone who is close to us, and we do it without hesitation. But the thing is, when do we recharge? When do we get a mental break? When do we get to physically heal ourselves with extra rest or the proper nutrition? When do we feed into our spirit something of a motivational value to keep us going? Look, we have the mental, the spiritual, and the physical, but it's not just separate categories because we're one being. And like I always like to say, and I'm going to keep drilling this point home, that when we go to the doctor and dealing with Western medicine to fix something or repair something, or we think heal something, but pills don't heal anything. They just take away the symptoms. But when we go to them thinking we're going to get healed, they deal with that issue and that issue alone. But I say, and I've learned, that every time you have a physical issue, a physical breakdown, there's a mental and spiritual element to it. But we're not taught that. So when you walk around emotionally drained or spiritually off, it's just a matter of time before it shows up in the physical. So unless it's something of an accident where you broke your leg or you caught the flu, something actually physical, external to you, there has to be an emotional, mental, spiritual connection to that before it happened in the breakdown. Don't think so? Let's bring it up to the physical or mechanical. We have a car, a truck, SUV, a vehicle, whatever it may be. Okay, you don't change the oil. It's okay for a while, but as the oil burns out and it's less oil, there's more friction in the engine. And it was so not funny to me, but it was amusing to me how many people, when I first moved down to Florida from New York City, who neglected changing their oil. They're driving along, and not because they didn't change it, they didn't have the oil at the full level. So now the engine was grinding. And they would have to jump out of their vehicle because the engine caught fire. And you see them on the side of the road with an actual fire. Like, how long didn't you notice the black smoke? Some people never change their oil. They just top it off. That's bad too. But one simple thing that if you realized that it needed to be taken care of on a minuscule level, if you took care of it, the bigger problem wouldn't have happened. But we are so distracted in the Black community. You know, we got things we're doing, and we just feel like, well, we'll take care of that later. Really, Tanya? As I talk, I'm just going to Google Jamaica. Something's going on a major level there. Let me just punch in Jamaica news. Let me see what's going on. Latest news. Okay, let me just go to the Observer. Okay, let me see if there's anything other than anything major. I don't see it, but I do know that the Jamaican newspapers and many of the periodicals and things, they're slow to upload. So, not that I'm depending on the oppressor's slanted news. I see here in the first pop-up, Jamaica earthquake. Let me see if that's something current. Okay, that looks like to be something older that just came back in the search, so don't think that I am. If you can find out what it is, let me know if you know what it is, and then I'll search it and we'll talk about it a little bit in the program. But I just want to continue with the flow, but thank you so much. Oh, you mean as far as I'm purposely starting fires? Oh yeah, we knew about this. Yeah. And we're definitely going to talk about that. Yes. I'll talk about that maybe later on today. Thank you so much. But that's been going on. Maybe it's increasing, but yes, it's happening down there like that. And a lot of the people, they let it happen because these Chinese and Lebanese and different people, they want to get that land. They want to drive off people and get that prime land. That's what they want to do. Like, thank you so much, Tanya. But like I was saying, with us in this thing called depression and this thing that we ignore the symptoms of, we let it go on. The way when we don't change the oil, we let it go on. And it becomes a bigger problem. And I have to say, as a special note to my sisters, I learned a term the other day, and I heard the name before. Back in the 80s, the late 80s, we had a singer named Karen White, and she sung a song, Superwoman. Remember that one? For those who could remember, I'm not your superwoman. I don't know the rest of the words, but when I hear it, I'll know the words. But they have this term now today that they call the Superwoman syndrome. And of course, this also goes for the men. But because I feel, and I got to get the exact statistics, that most of the single households are run by women. Single parent households, and we have a lot of brothers who are holding it down excellently as single parents. Kudos to you. But I kind of believe that it's more women than men. And it's not an easy job when you're on your own. You have needs. Now, when we say that, first thing we start thinking is sexual. I don't mean just that. That's low on the totem pole when you're living life and you're making ends meet or trying to make ends meet, surviving or trying to survive, or even if you're doing real good and you're by yourself. That's still a stress. Maybe you don't want to be in a relationship right now, but it's nice to have companionship of the opposite sex. That's the way our Creator made us. Anybody who says different, well, we'll debate on another show. But sometimes it's not always where, as a woman or even a man, where you want to even be bothered with the opposite sex, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a need. And we're not just talking sex, but to have a partner, a companion, a mate, to make things not easier, but to make things as they should be, which is easier. It doesn't say easy, but easier. But I don't blame a lot of the sisters who are used to dealing or have so many men coming around them who are riffraff. I'm not calling all black men riffraff. I'm saying those who approach them that are. And you give them a chance. And you realize early on, this Negro ain't sugar honey iced tea. He's just looking for a place to live. He just don't have all the money that he needs to live where he wants to live, so he wants to live with me, and it's not about me. He just wants to upgrade his life. And I'm not saying all black men are this way. I have to keep saying it because somebody's going to come at me in the comment section, and I'm going to timestamp this part and make them play it. Because, see, people will listen to a few moments of what you put out there and run with something. Aha, he said it. I'm going to write a book in this comment section and end up looking like a damn fool when you miss the total context of what I was trying to explain. And many who are used to being here, you know how I talk. You know I'm not saying it's all of anything, right? And sometimes when I forget to present that disclaimer, nobody beats me up because they know, no, Lance just slipped up, but I have to keep saying it. For the rest of the show, I'm not saying it no more. Yeah, Raw Reality, that was a big hit back in the 80s. I used to love that song. God, it was like that was the other day. Am I really Benjamin Button getting younger with every year? I know I'm not. But it's like yesterday because it's so clear in my mind. But with clinical depression and depression, which are two different things, and you can be depressed and not in depression or clinically depressed, we don't really acknowledge these things because, again, we take it as a sign of weakness. So let me peek on over here. I want to read off a few things to bring us into clarity with that. And I'll bring a few instances, and I know in the chat room you'll speak on this subject to make it more enjoyable for the whole discussion. And if you're listening to this after it was live and it's just a video up, you can add in your comments. You can also go to LANCESCURV.com to the same video that's there and add in your comments. I would love that. And thank you. And thank you all for sharing and liking and your support on Cash App, PayPal, Zelle, and the various platforms that we're on down below. But understand that I do this out of love. This ain't no social media hustle for me because I've been doing this long before those things were in existence. I'm going to continue to do so. And of course, we have a phone call coming in. Give me one moment to let them know I'm live. I'm going to play this song for a second, and I'll be right back. Okay, they hung up already. I already told them it might be a little longer on my stream that we were going to talk, but I didn't start as early as I wanted to, so that's okay. Like I was saying, and what I'm going to do for now, I have to cut this phone off because I want to get into a flow without any interruptions. And it's not a problem when a person calls me at all, but during a show, I don't want to be too taken off the topic or interrupted by the phone. But I was expecting that phone call though. Here it is. Again, we're at Mental Health America. I like this website. One of the reasons why is it deals with a lot of issues that we have uniquely in our community. And I applaud them for that because we have unique situations that happen that the general mental health community practitioners don't deal with. They're not going to get down to the nitty gritty like someone who thinks like us and has lived like us and understands us. Because remember, just because a person looks like you doesn't mean they think like you. And they can be worse off. So what I would suggest, just like many would have a doctor or a place that you can go to have your needs taken care of on a physical level, because that's all Western medicine can do for you, you need to ahead of time. When you have a family or even if you're just by yourself, when everything is okay, and of course when everything is not okay, find someone who you're comfortable with. This is me telling you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just suggesting this to you because I want to make this platform about sharing information in the comment section, in the chat room. Let's share, share, share. For those who have experiences, I want you to reach out to me. If you want to share something that you've gone through in your life, I would like to interview you, not to exploit you, not for clickbait and hits. The channel's shadow banned anyway, but so that others can hear maybe something that they've gone through on a similar level and draw some strength from that because you showed them the solution on how you healed the situation, or maybe by explaining it and it's not all the way healed yet or finished yet, maybe somebody who's out there will hear it and say, let me reach out to that person. And I don't give out your information if you give it to me like that. If you say, Lance, if there's somebody who wants to talk to me, shoot my email, shoot my number, or maybe they'll say, you reach out to me, Lance, and you connect me with them, and I'll do it on my terms. I'm okay with that. I honor everybody's boundaries and respect it. I got a whole lot of numbers in my phone. I have a whole lot of situations that have been shared with me in my head. And I want to say one more time, like I always say it, if I use an example to explain something here in this show, and it's very similar to what maybe someone here has told me, don't think I'm telling your situation. But situations that we go through usually are very common, but we don't know it because we don't talk to people enough to know. But being out online for 22 and a half years, soon to be 23, I've talked to a lot of people long before YouTube came into existence, even in life, even through my observations. So there will be things that are very similar. Understand that. Let's just read on with this article and bring it into certain points. I'll talk a little bit and we'll see where we go from there. Depression in Black Americans, not just the blues. Clinical depression is more than life's ups and downs. Life is full of joy and pain, happiness and sorrow. It is normal to feel sad when a loved one dies, or when you are sick, going through a divorce, or having financial problems. But for some people, the sadness does not go away or keeps coming back. If your blues last more than a few weeks or cause you to struggle with daily life, you may be suffering from clinical depression. Clinical depression is more than just life's ups and downs. Life is full of joy and pain, happiness and sorrow. Gracelessness or faithlessness, it is a common yet serious medical illness. Clinical depression is a whole body illness that affects your mood, thoughts, behavior. Without treatment, symptoms can last for weeks, months, or years. Appropriate treatment, however, can help most people who have clinical depression. Anyone can experience clinical depression, regardless of race, gender, age, creed, or income. Every year, more than 19 million Americans suffer from some type of depressive illness. According to a Surgeon General report, Black Americans are overrepresented in populations that are particularly at risk for mental illness. Depression robs people of the enjoyment found in daily life and can even lead to suicide. You see how I said that this thing overlaps? We spoke about suicide yesterday. Go back and listen to that show if you missed it. A common myth about depression is that it is normal for certain people to feel depressed. Older people, teenagers, new mothers, menopausal women, or those with a chronic illness. The truth is that depression is not a normal part of life for any Black American, regardless of age or life situation. Unfortunately, depression has often been misdiagnosed in the Black community. The myths and stigma that surround depression create needless pain and confusion and can keep people from getting proper treatment. The following statements reflect some common misconceptions about Black Americans and depression. Why are you depressed? If our people can make it through slavery, we can make it through anything. When a Black woman suffers from a mental disorder, the opinion is that she is weak, and weakness in Black women is intolerable. You should take your troubles to Jesus, not some stranger psychiatrist. The truth is that getting help is a sign of strength. People with depression can't just snap out of it. Also, spiritual support can be an important part of healing, but the care of a qualified mental health professional is essential. That's why we got so many nutcases running up in the daggone church thinking that that's the cure-all. And we must say the earlier treatment begins, the more effective it can be. The earlier the treatment begins, the more effective it can be. But I need to say something about that. Go on, let the pastor lay hands on you, and Jesus is going to make it all right. Where's Jesus at? Why is the world so jacked up? Why are we committing suicide? Why are we drowning our babies and leaving them by the fire department? Why is there so many people on methamphetamine? Why are there so many people who feel distraught and they can't make any money and our sisters are out there prostituting? Why is, come on, y'all. And we say the God in me. But you're talking about your damn neighbor every damn day. What God you got in you? You hating on the people around you. You're talking about them. What kind of God you got in you? And you talk about, yes, I am spiritual. The hell you are. Demons can be spiritual. Demons can have the gift of discernment too. Demons can do good deeds to seduce you into their circle so they can do you in eventually. So all of this talk about church is going to make it right. That's a brick and mortar building that you decide to go to, and you feel when you want to act holy or purge your subconscious minds of the freakish things you did the night before, which if it's with the proper person that you're with, the freakishness is nice. I love freakishness. But I ain't going to do freakishness with every woman I see. Huh? So forget about that stuff. You need someone who is trained to deal with you, not some old ignoramus full of pork and bacon. Come on now, we got to go around the church now. You can't even hardly walk. Legs rubbing together so bad that if you're around newspaper or forest, you might start a forest fire, all that friction going on. You got to be careful who you open up to, because they'll bring you to some jackleg situation and you'll be worse off than you ever were before. Many factors can contribute to clinical depression, including cognitive issues such as negative thinking patterns, biological and genetic factors, and gender. It affects more women than men. I didn't know that. I do know people that are close to me that are suffering from clinical depression, but I didn't know it affects more women than men. But really, when you look at it, you know, it makes sense. Wow. Other medications, other illnesses, and situational factors. For some, a number of these factors seem to be involved, while for others, a single factor can cause the illness. Often, people become depressed for no apparent reason. In an effort to cope with the emotional pain caused by depression, some people try to self-medicate through the abuse of alcohol or illegal drugs, which only leads to more problems. Ain't that something? When you go into many American African communities, Black communities in America, we have so many means of escape, which means that we're in pain, we're suffering. And it doesn't mean that other communities don't have the same means of escape. You know, we got our liquor stores, but in the other communities, they call it wine and spirits. We got the whorehouses, and they have them too in the other communities, but they may look so affluent and nice that you wouldn't even know what's going on behind closed doors in your very neighborhood. White folks smoke crack, methamphetamine. They're the most of the ones doing it. But because of the financial opportunities of selling crack in the downtrodden neighborhoods, you'll see a concentration of it. So when they broadcast the hoods over the nightly news to show you how bad it is for Black people, it's a concentration. And we get the wrong idea. And others get the wrong idea and think all of us live in such a place, which there are very wonderful people there. And there's some who are wayward, who are not going to change their way of thinking and elevate. And let's just say it this way. I'll say the word God, not in the European sense, but God didn't make any hoods. In the beginning, God said, let there be light. By the fourth day, he created hoods. By the fourth day, he created upon the earth designated areas that would be called hoods, where you'll find poor Black people, some ignorant, some striving to get out. You'll find baby mamas having children, allowing the welfare system to take care of them as the government wants, because they don't want Black males around. On that fourth day, yes, God created hoods. I don't see that nowhere in the Bible. We've accepted that in our mind, and we allow these things, but we can change that. Because oftentimes when they begin to gentrify a neighborhood, it may take 10, 15, 20 years, but you leave and come back, you won't be able to afford to live in that place. Wow, it's so nice. And it's a slap in the face to you, because you realize if you had some unity as Black people, we could have made this heaven on earth. But we're dealing with so much. Self-medicating. You see it. Even if the old church lady says she believes in Jesus and Jesus is coming. Well, like I said, the only Jesus I knew that came was a dude that lived next door to me named Jesus, and he had a lot of girlfriends. And I heard him every night in the room with them as he came. Now, I'm not making mockery All I'm saying is that while other communities, we'll say communities, they're moving on and doing what they have to do and healing, even though a lot of them are ailing also. It's not just us. But at least there's a faction of them that do have a faction, some semblance of unity. That when one of us feels a little down, there's outreach programs and they will go to them. There's outreach in our communities too, here and there, not as much as it should be in proportion to what we go through. But nah, I don't want to go there. Where's it at? With outreach program, they can help me not feel so bad. I'll go, but where is it? It's right down there on Main Street. You know, right next to the big Walmart. I just said Main Street because that's a street that every city has, right? Next to the Walmart. Well, actually, it's in the mall area, the strip mall where the Walmart is. You mean that place right next to the exit door? I'm going there, somebody's going to see me. I don't want nobody seeing me. But if you are clinically depressed and eventually the walls mentally are closing in on you and your perception of your life is that the only way is the way to get out is to take your life. You don't want them seeing you for something minor. I'm not saying what you're going through is minor, but that's minor compared to taking your life. And when you take your life, it's going to be news, baby. Did you hear what happened to Shirley? What happened? Man, she overdosed, man. She don't take no drugs, but she took. Yeah, she was feeling kind of down. I think she was depressed. Oh, well, she might be in a better place. You see how sick we are? You see how twisted we are? Religion is a band-aid that we put over every single wound, and Jesus is the one to stop us and to heal us. And it ain't working because we're worse off. But everywhere in the downtrodden black communities, you got the liquor store, you got the crack house, you got the whore house, you got the church house. If you ask me, the whore house, well, men like women and they see the pretty bodies and stuff, and you shouldn't be doing that. But if you had a good woman, if you had a right mind, you wouldn't need that. You can step away from that. If you're an alcoholic and you correct the reasons why you are self-medicating, you can come away from that. But that's also a cry for help when you really look at it. Because you're trying to medicate something away, but you don't acknowledge the very thing that's making you try to self-medicate. The same with drugs. It's a cry for help. Even when you're doing it and it's not destructive visibly to you, but the minute you first do it, it is. You crying out. So when you see somebody on drugs, oh, they're all right. They're just a functional. No, they ain't fall yet. That's what it is. And some of us can go longer using drugs, self-medicating and coping that way. And some of us can't last long. How many people did we know, whether we knew they were smoking crack or not, been smoking crack for long periods of time? Early 80s, let's just say 83, 84, depending on where you lived in the United States. Let's say 83 to round it off. It was 40 years ago. 40 years ago. We look at crack like, oh, you crack it. Like this is something new. Because those of us who have lived for a sizable chronological time, set of years, we remember the pre-crack era. We know cocaine was always around and freebasing, but crack in the street, crack is alive and well in America. It's become a part of our life that we don't even flinch when we see one who is on drugs like that. It's crazy. It's like when you let a person come in because they're down and out and they say, listen, I just need to stay by your place and sleep on your couch for 2 weeks. 6 months later, they're still there. A year later, they're still there. Now, I'm exaggerating, but it happens sometimes. They're there so long, when you go from the north to the south or somewhere in the south and you're already in the south, but you go to a different part of the south to the family reunion, they coming along with you. They've been with you so long. Because they're part of the family now. It's crazy. It's crazy. Clinical depression is a treatable disease. The good news is that, like other illnesses such as heart disease or diabetes, clinical depression is treatable with the help of a healthcare professional. In fact, over 80% of people with depression can be treated successfully. Again, in that treatment, I don't know about that. I'm not saying, well, just go to the health food store and take St. John's wort and it's going to be gone. No, but the synthetic chemicals and the pills they give us, that is not a cure. That may help you a little bit to get over the hump. But to me, that's not taking care of the issue that initially has you depressed, whether it's one issue or the fact that you're overwhelmed and you've been overwhelmed for years and trying to push through that because of the work schedule, the children, the perception that it's too much and you don't get a break. And don't listen to these people who tell you, well, you'll get over it. It's just keep on pushing. No. They're not feeling it. So how the hell they can tell you what you're going through? See, it's just like with our tolerance to pain. One person could be a big old linebacker, football-looking dude. Like, oh, he's tough. He can take a lot. And then you'll have a granny, 78 years old, still looking good, but you can tell she's somebody's grandmother or great-grandmother, the way we going at it young. And you both going somewhere to get a shot. I'm not condoning that shot. I'm just saying this as, a way of telling a story. And the granny goes in the office and gets a shot and, oh, thank you, doctor. And that big linebacker dude is sweating, scared, turning his head, balling up his fist. Ah! For the same needle the granny took. So we all have a different tolerance to pain. So you just can't assume that what you endured in your life, and stop telling the stories. Baby, you just got your 2 children and you getting child support and you working a good job. You ain't got no reason to be feeling depressed, because if I tell you about what I had to do when I was going to have you, I had to work 3 jobs. And I ain't proud of it, but there's that man next door that used to put his hands on me and get his rocks off and give me a little extra money. And it was hard. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about what I had to go through. And where we were living, there was leaks in the roof and rats running around. And we didn't have nobody to take care of you and your brother. Come on, stop. It might have been rough. But tolerance to pain, how can you went through that and you did. More power to you. But maybe your child doesn't have that tolerance to pain and will collapse under less stress. So stop saying, oh, get over it, or you'll get through it. Oh, you'll be okay. Because that's something that you'll be okay with. How do you know what the next person's tolerance to pain and stress is? I recently learned, and most of us know of it, cortisol, that stress hormone. You can be in perfect health where they don't find anything that is foreseeably wrong with you. And if you have enough of this cortisol in your system from stress, you can drop down dead of a heart attack. It can be minor things that annoy you. And the next person dismisses it as though it's nothing, but it's stressing the hell out of you. How inconsiderate our family members, our spouses, our so-called close friends can be when you keep saying, this is important to me. This is what I need for peace of mind. And they dismiss it as though it's nothing. And I'm not going to say something that appears to be minor just outright gives you a heart attack, but it can happen and it can wear you down. And just like they discovered that women, after 3 months of being around each other, their periods begin to synchronize. And what's more evident of that is young girls or women any age that are having their menses, whether it's a college dorm or some temporary living situation that may last a year. You know, temporary doesn't mean just 2 weeks, but something extended. But hey, we're going to do this for the next year. We're going to save this money. You're going to live with me. I'm going to give you this amount. We're going to make it. Then we're going to buy this house. We're going to buy this car. We're going to move out the city, whatever. And you're around these people, you're around these other women, your periods begin to synchronize. That's amazing to me. Because from that, and what I also learned, because of the high cortisol levels in a person of being stressed or other reasons, that can rub off on you. Now, you may have a high tolerance for not perceiving your life in a stressful way or a hopeless way, but birds of a feather flock together, sometimes by choice, and sometimes they have no choice. So when you have no choice to be around people that you got to wake up and see every day, that's not your cup of tea. Either you embrace it, which pretty much you're not, or you reject it. And in rejecting it, because they're close to you, they're coworkers, they're neighbors, they're people that you have to deal with, it can be stressful. And some people are sadistic, where they ain't going to acknowledge the fact that you're not comfortable with these entities around you. You have a right to choose who is in your life. Just because of proximity on a job doesn't mean that, well, I can't stand your ass, but let's go out drinking anyway. Let's go hang out. Let's go do everything together. Let me tell you about. No, I'm not doing that. And there have been situations in my life where I'm going to have the last word. I'm not giving in to none of that. That's the way I am, because I'm not used to being raised that way. See, my unique situation personally, I had my older brother who was on drugs, but he was 11 years older than me and out of the house. I grew up as an only child, and technically I am, because I'm the only product of my parents. My mother had my brother before she met my father when she was much younger. So I'm an only child. But I love my brother. I don't embrace his ways, but I love him. So I had a room. I can close the door. My mother and father would knock on the door and ask me if it was okay to come in. They gave me a sense of privacy. See, I didn't grow up in a tenement yard where as soon as you come out the door, everybody's on their front steps staring you in the face. I don't like stuff like that. I'm not saying if you had brothers and sisters that it was a tenement yard, and that's a Jamaican term. But I'm not used to this pile-up business with everybody just coming from next door, down the block, walking in your house, going in your fridge. No, we didn't have that in my household. And if I went to my mother and father's bedroom, I just couldn't open up the door like that. If they weren't home and I had to go in there, of course I can do that. But they might be undressed. They might be, doing some things. I didn't want to see that. I'm glad they did that to bring me here, but I don't want to see that. So there were lines drawn. So I didn't have certain stresses that when I came home, maybe a brother or sister went through my drawer and took something out of there, or a brother took a shirt that was mine. I didn't deal with that. Now, I know everybody didn't grow up that way, but I respect people the same way. And there's some people who grew up in certain ways that they don't give a damn how you grew up. We're going to make it the way we had it, and to hell with you, Lance. No, I draw the line for my mental health, because that might be minor for some people, but it's major for me. Mind your business. You can be cordial, but you over there and I'm over here. I'm not into what you're doing and trying to be nosy on your business. You stay over there, I stay over here. It's unbearable for some people. They have to be in your business and their nose up in your stuff. And that could be stressful. When you stress me, I'm going to stress you right on back. That's the way I am. But the thing is, we don't understand the symptoms of clinical depression. And they say, due to cultural backgrounds, like I just said, right? Depression may be exhibited differently among Black Americans. To help decide if you or someone you care about needs an evaluation for clinical depression, review the following list of symptoms. If you experience 5 or more for longer than 2 weeks, if you feel suicidal, or if the symptoms interfere with your daily routine, see your doctor and bring this sheet with you. Here's some of the symptoms. A persistent, sad, anxious, or empty mood, or excessive crying. Reduced appetite and weight loss, or increased appetite and weight gain. Persistent physical symptoms that do not respond to treatment, such as headaches, digestive disorders, and chronic pain. Irritability, restlessness, decreased energy, fatigue, feeling slowed down, feelings of guilt, worthlessness, helplessness, hopelessness, pessimism, sleeping too much or too little, early morning waking, loss of interest or pleasure in activities, including sex, difficulty concentrating, remembering, or making decisions, thoughts of death or suicide, or suicide attempts. A quick, easy, and confidential way to determine if you may be experiencing depression is to take a mental health screening. A screening is not a diagnosis, but a way of understanding if your symptoms are having enough of an impact that you should seek help from a doctor or other professionals. They have websites, online stuff, phone numbers you can call. On LANCESCURV.com, I'll list some below the video that will be on this page on LANCESCURV, right? Because every video I do on YouTube or everywhere else, I put on LANCESCURV as a separate post. I haven't done it yet. This is also going live on LANCESCURV.com on the homepage. So whenever you want to see what's going on, you can always hit LANCESCURV.com, and it's going to be right there in the top under the header that says LANCESCURV. Treatment options. I'll read this off, but it doesn't mean I condone everything. The most common ways to treat clinical depression are with antidepressant medication, psychotherapy, or a combination of the two. The choice of treatment depends on how severe the depressive symptoms are and the history of the illness. Now, I always say how I'm not for synthetic toxic medications, but if I feel you about to try to take your life tonight, you're going to take something, all right? I'm not going to come to you and say, well, take this herbal treatment and wait a little while. Those are things that should be maintained in your life, as well as time management, balancing out your life, not doing so much where you feel overwhelmed. Those things can be adjusted maintenance-wise in the long term. But if you're having an episode and you grabbing for knives and I got to wrestle you down, you're going to take them pills. I'm sorry, you're going to do it, right? So let me see where I was. That's the treatment options. Research strongly supports the use of medication for more severe episodes of clinical depression. Antidepressant medication acts on the chemical pathways of the brain related to moods. The two most common types are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors and tricyclic antidepressants Monoamine oxidase inhibitors are also prescribed by some doctors. Now, I don't know what the hell all of that is, y'all. You can Google that stuff. I'm just reading the article. Antidepressant medications are not habit forming. It may take up to 8 weeks before you notice an improvement. It is usually recommended that medications be continued for at least 4 to 9 months after depressive symptoms have improved. Those with chronic or recurrent depression may need to stay on medication to prevent or lessen further episodes. People taking antidepressants should be monitored by a doctor to ensure the best treatment with the fewest side effects. Do not stop taking your medication without first talking to your doctor, since some medications cause problems if stopped abruptly. I've seen that happen. I've seen it happen where a person stopped taking it and the episodes that they were experiencing just came out of nowhere worse than ever before. That's like saying, I'm going to eat a whole week of food today. For the next 6 days, I ain't going to eat. That ain't right. You're going to be crazy hungry after after a day, maybe, right? After a couple hours. You have to take this stuff evenly so I can understand. But again, I say, no matter what you take to make you feel better, you have to change the situation that made you and put you in that place. Maybe you're working double shifts and not getting any sleep, and then you got to get up and take your children to the daycare and then go pick them up and then get up early before work, cook their food and clean them, wash them, get their clothes together. On the weekends, you got to do stuff around the house. You got to cut the lawn, or if you're in an apartment, you got to wash the clothes, and you're tired, but when do you have the time to be free? Like I always say, try to find some time to be bored. You ain't never hear nobody say nothing like that before now, right? I say it because you all know my mind is always working. And I don't have to do this. I just love doing this stuff. But the bottom line is you have to have time to detach and open up your mind to be free to the point where you're almost bored. Because my theory, this is not fact, I didn't read this from any professional article or any type of what do you call it when a medical professional speak and they have their things, but whatever it is, but I didn't hear this anywhere else. But I feel that when you are bored, there's a cleansing that takes place from within. Not just just have some time to sit down quiet. You could still be thinking about balancing the checkbook. You could still be thinking about, is my man cheating on me? Oh, you can still be thinking about, I thought, I'm waiting for the results of this test, and I hope it's going to be all right. And you stressed and you still thinking. But to have your life cleared away to the point where I'm going to take a walk because I ain't got nothing to do right now. How many of us have that I ain't got nothing to do time to spend? There's always something to do in this modern world. And that's the problem. Because they keep packing things on you, packing things on you, packing things on you. There was a time for some of us, not all, but even more so in the Black community, where we had most of our families married and we had a family structure. And we had accountability at the dinner table because we didn't want to act up in school because the parents got the call. We're going to have to sit there. We wanted to eat. And we're going to have to be accountable for what we did. That smart answer we gave to the teacher or that little shove that we gave to the other student. But we don't have that anymore. It's a free-for-all. Parents are working extra. Kids doing what they want to do. Kids getting pregnant and letting the mama know after 3 months. Like, damn, what kind of unraveled structure you think it looks structured, but it's not. But back in those days, we had more accountability. We had more structure. And these days, we don't have that anymore. That was something that we depended on. That was something that undergirded our lives because we had the family structure. But now today, it's do whatever you want to do. We have more demands on us. It used to be where, and I'm not saying it was with everybody, but we had more of that. We had it where we had a father who went out and went to work. And usually he'd go to work for 8 hours and he'd come home to his wife. Now, maybe the wife worked part-time at the 5 and dime store to pick up an extra few pennies or extra things she wanted around the house. But pretty much, and again, this is not the scenario for everybody, but pretty much he took care of the house, the apartment, the mortgage, the car note. Cars weren't as expensive proportionally like they are now. They were a lot cheaper according to today's dollars, but proportionally it wasn't that high. You had layaway, where you can go to a department store, and if there was something you wanted to purchase, it wasn't about your credit, but if you want this item, I'm going to give you 6 months or a year or whatever it was that it took, whatever the store said. What happened to layaway? Who remembers that here? Raise your hand in the chat room. Or with layaway, if you wanted to buy something for $1,000, but you didn't have $1,000, well, let's just round it off and say $1,200. Well, they would tell you, listen, you can get on the 1-year plan. You can get on a 2-year plan. So what was the 1-year plan? If you wanted that item for $1,200, they'll tell you pay $100 a month for a year and the item is yours. And they'll put the item to the side. It was never really that long because it wasn't something that was that big or expensive. I'm just rounding it off so you can explain if you didn't know what layaway was. But if you didn't have the money that fast and they say, okay, we're going to take 2 years to pay for it, but you're going to pay $50 a month until we end up after 2 years, you paying back the $1,200. Things were more practical back then. I remember as a young boy, we had more hope. We had less channels for escapism. And yes, we had the issues of drugs and things back then. But like I said, the Black community is filled with nothing else but places of escapism. The crack house, the whore house, the liquor house, the church house. That's the biggest crack house in the damn Black community because they're selling you a dream. They're taking your money. They're making you feel high and making you feel good for a little bit with this religious emotionalism. But religious emotionalism doesn't do a damn thing for you. What about dealing with the spiritual voids that you have, that you hide a little bit? And you feel so good after coming out to church because now it's a license to go indulge in the things you want to indulge in. That's all it is. And you felt guilty from what you were doing the night before with the next woman's husband or the next man's wife or your best friend, their brother, and you a man. Or the secret little lesbian thing you got going on. You just got a thing for women, but your husband don't know. So y'all got your little secret flirtations going on. I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just telling you how it is. I know a lot of church ladies that their way of escapism is going to play that number. I'm going to play it. I'm a combinated and I'm going to play it single. After church, the numbers joint in the hood was always filled. Here they come with their dream books. They're looking at license plate numbers. Oh, 267. I keep seeing 267. So I'm gonna play 267, 762, 672. I know I'm gonna hit. The Lord gonna bring me that money. Well, if the Lord was bringing you that money and blessing your life, why you got to leave the house of Jesus and God and all that stuff and go to the number spot? Because that's where you really put your hope in. See? You don't really believe in that stuff because you go into church because most of people, unless it's a tragedy and you feel you're going to get something there, after 9/11, the churches were packed that Tuesday night. Oh, man. The pastors were having orgasms. They didn't even have offering plates in. They took garbage can lids and passed it around. It was so much money coming in because people felt that they can buy their sins away. They were scared. And most of the time when you're running up in church, you scared of something. You found out that you have a sickness, so I better start going to church because I know I'm not living right, and maybe the Lord will make it right for me. Look, if it wasn't right, it ain't going to be right unless you change it to make it right, sincerely. Don't come with that foolishness. And then when you well, and you say, the Lord, he healed me. Well, you back doing what you doing on a Friday and Saturday night that nobody knows about. I know about that stuff because there's a lot of little things I was doing in the midnight hour. A lot of back doors I was walking through that were left open for me, and I had to leave before daybreak so the neighbors didn't see. I know about that stuff, so you can't fool me. I can see things that most people can't see because I've been in situations that most people haven't been in. I know women who may be wayward, and I know men who could be wayward. Everybody, no, it's not like that. No, get the hell out of here. If you've been to medical school and you're a doctor, you passed all the grades and you're one of the best ones in the class, and after that, you got to operate on corpses and stuff, and you know the human body, and you see this thing and you know it. Like the mechanic back in the days before they used to hook up the car to this diagnostic machine that tells you everything. The old school mechanic didn't need that. You come driving up into his mechanic shop. He's like, oh, I don't know if this is it. I'm just going to say, oh, your transmission needs to be changed. Oh, but can I have it rebuilt? No. When they're making that noise, it needs to be changed. Go on to somebody else and get another estimate or assessment of what the problem is. But this is my price. And you think it's a little too high. And he told you what it was. So you go to the fancy spot on the other side of town of the people who don't like you. And they tell you the same thing, that your transmission needs to be changed. And they're going to tell you twice the price. Negro, you coming over here. We don't want you over here no way. So they're going to charge you double. So now you come back to the original guy, all humble with your tail between your legs. Yeah, I found out. Oh, so why'd you come back? The price was too high over there on the other side of town now, wasn't it? So we can't be in denial of certain things. And I find that Black folks are the biggest delusional people when something's staring them in the damn face. And when you tell them something of what's a reality and what's real, they get mad at you. No, I don't think it's that. But deep down, they know it. But they want to paint the picture of an alternate reality when inside they're suffering. Like I said before, most of us, somebody that you know well comes up to you and you know you're depressed, you know something happened, and you say, how are you today? Before they even say the last syllable in the word today, they're on the letter D in today. How are you? I'm fine. You cut them off. I'm fine. Yes, my brother, sister, I'm fine. And you know you got issues in your family, in your head, that you know, like, damn, I got to continuously deal with this. But we don't have the support systems. Or we have it on the surface. But we don't go to family. No. We don't tell our business in church. We ain't going to tell our business with them people, but you're calling them all sister and brother. That's sick. Because they show up in the church. And I'm bashing the church right now. Yes, I am. I'm all off topic. But maybe somebody needs to hear this. I used to be in jail and in prisons, working as a correctional officer with inmates who were there for reasons various that were severe, to maybe somebody that didn't pay their child support or driving with a suspended license. And when I got stationed by the guys who might have committed murder, might have raped somebody, I'm saying it light because there's a lot of that going on that we don't know about. A lot of them that didn't have anybody on the outside to take them in like family, or family that wanted to take them in. I remember hearing lots of conversations about stuff like this and how they were planning to do when they got out. You know, my mama don't want me. I don't know who my daddy is. I think you're dead. So, you know, We fellas been talking about this, man. I think this is the best way we gonna get it, man. You know, I'm not a church guy, but I can see, man, that might be the best way to go. So I'm thinking, oh, this guy's trying to turn his life around and give it to the Lord. See, I don't knock anybody who is feeling around in the dark for a light switch. They may be feeling around this way and they find out 2, 3, 8 years later, that's not the way. Well, allow the person to go through the process of finding themselves, right? And many people are mad at me now for saying what I said, and later on, man, you were right, man, but you had balls to say it. See, I'm the kind of guy who got the balls to say what many people are in denial about, and most of the time they don't like me. And I like that because that means I'm doing something right. But these guys would sit around and talk about, man, I got to get me a suit. I got to get me a suit when I get out. I'm like, why you worry about something to eat, a roof over your head? Yeah, you know, I can stay with my boy for a couple of weeks. So I got to get this suit. Like, a suit? Yeah. You know, we in here, we getting that free dental coverage, our teeth looking good. We in here, we got the weight room so our bodies are right. We in here, we got nothing but time to think about the best way to move when we get out of prison. And the best way to really get yourself set when you in prison, you coming out and you have nobody to help you out is to find yourself at a church. And at the church, you'll get people who want to help you out if you come clean. So you're not going to lie about what you were doing for the last 15 years when you were locked up. You know, we got computers now, man. You could leave the country and run away from something, but that thing is going to come eventually find you because the world is getting more small and shrinking. It's just a matter of time. But if you come up in there and say, yeah, you might lie about your charges. You might not want to say you raped somebody. Well, you know, I was out there in the streets, you know what I'm saying? And I was doing the wrong thing. And, you know, my mom always told me about the Lord, you know, and I grew up in the church, but, you know, I'm backsliding, you know, I was resisting. I got caught up out there in that life, getting that quick money, you know, screwing over girls and stuff. I'm sorry, Pastor, I can't say screwing over. Yeah, you're right. Hey, look, I was in there for 15 years. I'm trying to change. It's all right, baby. Keep on going with your story. And I'm here right now at a point in my life where I want to give my life to God. I don't have a job. I don't have this. And look, I have a theory that I call, maybe somebody else calls it that way, but it's the broken wing theory. And many women who, not just in the church, but a lot of women, a lot of our sisters, when they see a man who may not be broken, but if he was a bird, he couldn't fly right now because of what he had to go through. So many of our sisters will rush in to want to aid and help that man. And at the end of the day, in the back of their mind, many of them, not just from the kindness of their heart, well, if I can refurbish this man a little bit, he'll be thankful and he'll be mine. Look how nice he looks. He's intelligent. He doesn't have any money, but with his brilliance, they invest in you. If someone told you, I'm giving you this Lamborghini, but it has a flat tire. And you know the prices of Lamborghinis. I forget, I mean, different $200,000, $250,000, whatever. You look at, oh man, that's a car, that's $250,000. So you're not thinking about nothing. It has a flat tire, and you fix the flat tire. Now you got a Lamborghini. But you never understood that the Lamborghini, the maintenance on it, was so much more than just a Toyota Corolla. So eventually you got to give it up. Give it to me with the flat tire, I'll sell it with the flat tire. I don't care if I knock $10,000 off just because of the flat tire. Listen, I got $240,000. But the broken wing syndrome or theory, there are a lot of women who, not just because they want a man, but that man is trapped in something when he's locked up. So you have them as pen pals. I've seen women that I've known personally go to prisons, and it's like going to a pet shop. You see all these handsome, and maybe not so handsome, muscular men who are intelligent, and some who may not as be, but they're witty. And you visit one that you may know, and They're going to tell you everything that you want to hear. They're going to write long letters to you. They're going to take time and speak the right stuff. They're going to take time and become that man that you want them to be by their projections of what they're going to be in the outside world. It can happen that way. I know a lot of women who didn't know the dude, but through doing the pen pal thing, they end up marrying the dude. I've been in visitation areas where dudes were scared to come out because 2 or 3 women showed up to visit the dude at the same time. We couldn't allow it to happen, but it's like, man, you got somebody waiting for you down there to visit you. No, that's all right, man. I ain't going down there. To get off topic even further, I remember being downtown in Orlando by the Lynx bus station. That's the company I used to drive for, the public transportation. And we wait for our buses to come in. We end up down there, and me, who drove late, early afternoon into the wee hours, you have to wait. You have to be there a certain time to wait for your bus to come in. And other buses are just coming in, going out, coming in, going out. Sometimes they're ending, sometimes they're starting, whatever. And there was a bus that was coming in, but there was nobody on the bus stop waiting. But it wasn't the rush hour. And it wasn't a really popular bus line. Some are more heavily trafficked than others, right? And whatever the ones that don't have as much traffic, whatever they don't do as revenue, as far as revenue, the heavier ones pick up for it. That goes with anything in business. You have companies, you have stores, the heavier ones pull the load. So there was a young lady there that was pregnant, looked like she's about to drop any minute. And there was another woman who was standing next to her who had what I could tell was some type of food. And it wasn't something from a restaurant. It was something that she prepared from home. I observe all these things. So here comes the bus. Now, I didn't know that those 2 young ladies were waiting for that bus to come in because they were actually waiting for the bus driver. And so I saw the bus coming in, and that particular bus stop was in the middle of the station, not at the end or not at the beginning, because you had like 3, like 1, 2, 3, 3 rows of bus stops. So the bus was coming in slow, coming toward the stop, and I saw a slight turn to the left and not the right. Not a turn, but you kind of come in and smooth and you want the tire to be close to the curb. He turned the wheel, and he didn't seem like he was slowing down. And the bus kept going. Wait a second. I'm observing this. The bus number, which I'm not going to say, was supposed to stop right there where the sign says this is the bus that stops here. Homeboy kept going and drove out of the bus depot. Why did he do that? Because the woman with the food was his wife. And the pregnant woman was his girlfriend that he hadn't seen in a long time, because after he found out that she was pregnant, he ditched her because he had a lot of other playthings across the city. I found all this out later on. So the people on the bus are screaming, the supervisors over the loudspeaker. The bus driver went to the front in the street by the service road of the I-4 highway and let the passengers off who were screaming at him because they trying to make a connection to the other bus. And so the 2 ladies were looking, and they both started complaining, where's he going? Yeah, where's he going? What you mean where he's going? You talk like you know him. That's my man, and this is his baby. Who are you? I'm his wife. So the food that she brought, the wife that she brought for the husband, was all over the floor. Now, they weren't fighting, but it did get physical. They grabbed each other around the neck. The pregnant one had the weave fell all off. They scratched each other's face. Some men jumped in. I was way down on the other side. I was walking toward it. I didn't want to see the girl get kicked in the stomach, but they handled it before I got there. So I looked outside. I saw all the passengers mad. They're coming back into the depot to get to that same stop. It was funny. I ain't gonna lie. All I'm saying is that a lot of us, we stress ourselves. I'm talking to the men now. Women do it too. They do little grimy things too, but us men, it's hard being a registered penis possessor. It's a responsibility to have a penis in this world. You've got to have control and control your emotions and control your desires. Because there'll be a lot of places that you see that you can park your penis into that you're not supposed to. You think with the little head and the big head submits. It's a cutoff switch. You're thinking with your big head until you see something nice in them jeans walk in front of you. Now you're not thinking right. And you put yourself in stressful situations and want to be depressed. Well, if you're depressed because you got 9 girlfriends that you can't keep up with, I don't feel sorry for you. Like I said, the situations in our life we need to change. Pills can't do it. It can only make us feel better while we're feeling really down. I'm not into the pills thing, but if you are about to commit suicide, which we don't always know, but when you observe somebody and you're close to them, you can say, hey, they may need some intervention with this for a time. But when you do that, take care of the original part that's bringing you to stress and bringing you to depression. Maybe I'm not saying it right, but I'm trying to make that point. Let's make a point this way. This one just came to me. You go and you get some, what do they call it? Novocaine? Whatever the thing is, or Ambisol, right? Ambisol. And you have a toothache really bad because you have a cavity, the nerves are exposed. Do you keep on, and they can use cloves also, right? But do you keep on putting the Ambisol on the tooth? Oh yeah, I don't feel the toothache now. I'm all right now. Then 8 hours later, you sleep and, oh, God, toothache came back. Let me put on some more Ambisol. And you keep doing it while the tooth gets worse and worse. The nerve is more exposed. And you just keep on putting Ambisol. But that ain't going to work because you're not taking care of the root problem. You understand? You're not taking care of the root problem. You got to take care of that initial problem that's making you depressed, clinically depressed. I'm not a professional. I'm just saying, while you on that medication, rearrange the different factors in your life that is bringing you to the point of distress. If you're working a lot because you feel you need this amount of stuff, or you have, you have bills that you have to pay them. Well, listen, you might have to part with that weave. And by no means am I making fun of my sisters that's not necessary. But you gotta look good. No. Looking good and stressed and depressed with somebody else's DNA on your head? Who told you that? I shave it off bald. You know how many bald women are sexy? They put a little makeup on and even they let their hair grow a little bit and shave it low and walk with confidence. Now you're saving hundreds and hundreds of, if not thousands of dollars a year that you can put in your pocket that you don't have to stress to go out to make that money. And you know what I learned years ago? It was a lawyer who told me this. And he said, Lance, so many people are falling into foreclosure. And it's not because they didn't have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It was because of possibly that $150 that they just couldn't get their hands on, that $250 that they couldn't get their hands on. Something that wasn't as much in the overall scheme of things that caused them to fall behind in the domino effect. It was like an avalanche down the side of a mountain. Just because of that little bit that they couldn't get. There are things that are going to push us over the edge. But if we weren't amped up, full of cortisol in our systems, which causes us to have this stress even more so, and increased belly fat, and having us have heart attacks where we didn't have issues with our heart before. It's going to raise up sometime, but you can't have it up high levels all the time. And how many of us are in the Black community right now walking around stressed, but we trying to look good? Anything that's not serving your life, your basic life, get rid of it. If somebody doesn't love you or not attracted to you because you don't have a weave on, they ain't gonna love you anyway when it comes off or starts to look a little nappy when it grows back at the roots. You don't need to have these people in your life. As a woman, you need a person or a man. Not that a man is going to be the cure-all, because most men ain't bringing nothing to the table anyway. And I'm not speaking bad about Black men, but for you brothers, you need to get your act together before you try to insert yourself into somebody else's life. Be a plus to each other. Even if you are a plus, where both of you don't have much, at least you ain't bringing stress into each other's life. We're going to have to restructure our lives so we don't stress ourselves unnecessarily and find ourselves depressed. Strip away all the foolishness. Strip it away. What is really important in your life? The little girl in that video study, that she was a young girl, maybe 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old, 5 years old. And there was a video made of her, and I did a show about that. Maybe I'll find it and try to drop it down in the description area. It was a quick little thing. She had a wig on with long, flowing, straight hair. I'm not sure if she had a mirror in her hand, but she obviously had some kind of reflection, because she was looking off into the distance and touching her hair. Oh, yes, I'm beautiful. Look at oh, yes. Then I saw a hand come and take the wig away. She looked into that reflection that I believe it was there, and what did she do? Why was the little girl crying? Because she felt beautiful with the wig, but she couldn't find herself beautiful without it. This is not about weaves and wigs, y'all. What about the dude who was proud of his vehicle and he got totaled in the accident, but he didn't have the insurance to give him another one? Now he's on the bus stop. He doesn't have as much confidence as he used to because he was driving this bad ride. He put so much weight into his car, as far as his ego and his id, that now that he doesn't have the car, he's crushed. See, we stress ourselves. I just wanted to add this in toward the end of what we're saying. You know what I mean? Let me read what Brother Mark Paris said. I struggle with depression for around a decade. I truly believe it's a spiritual battle. Take pills until you feel better. Then understand you must fight off the negative energy. Never give up. Correct. Correct. If you have to take the pills to feel good to get through it, it's like going to the dentist and saying, well, I don't want the pills I don't want the painkillers. Well, let them start tugging on them teeth without any of that, and you'll be grabbing for those things. But you don't take them after the tooth is out or they did the operation. So if you have to take them, I'm not against it. But just know that it's not the total thing. I'm taking pills, I'm all right. No. You take it if you have to. We don't want you feeling suicidal, and you do it and succeed in that. See? Much love to you, Brother Mark. Thank you for the contribution and sharing what you've been through. A lot of men are not going to do that. And I applaud you with it for doing that, and take my hat off to you, even though I don't have a hat on. It's symbolic. I take my hat off to you, brother. We all need to be open about these things, right? There have been times I've been down, but I can't say that I was actually depressed or clinically depressed. So that's why, for me, it was other things. Look, you ain't coming in this world, this obstacle course of a world, which is also a university, a classroom for eternity. and not have to sometimes learn some hard lessons or have things presented to you as far as a challenge that you have to figure out. It's not like, oh, I was born and everything was okay and I always had money and everybody loved me and cars popped out of nowhere and I walked up and they said that was my house and the bills were all paid. It ain't like that. And sometimes we're attached to things that we don't need to be attached to. So for me, the more I can detach myself from things that ultimately are not necessary, not important. Like I say, I'm in West Africa right now. And I could have took some of the equity money and let's just get a car. No. My children are grown and in America. I'm here. She's here. So we'll hold off with that until we finish our project of a home and then maybe get something small to get around in. My identity, my id, my ego is not tied up in some car. I've always had cars. I forget the amount of cars I've had in my lifetime in America. I had luxury cars, trucks, vans, foreign cars, automatic, stick, used, new. Come on. The novelty of that is gone. When I was younger, oh, I got a car. Hey, we're the girls. I got a nice back seat. I'm not into any of that now. Like I said yesterday, or yesterday or the day before, think back to when you were in your adolescent stages and 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever it may be back then. If you're older age, because if you're 22, you're not going to think back that far. You still might be in that state of mind. But think about the things that were the most important to you back then. I mean, you had to have this, whatever it was, whether it's some kind of status, whether it's something material, whether it's the admiration of the opposite sex, or whatever it may be, there was something that was egging you on. I got to have this. Like the little boy, right? Who wants that little Matchbox car, a little small car, a little thing that he can hold on and go, vroom, 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 vroom. Or that young girl who wanted that doll. Mommy, I want the doll. Mommy, I want the doll. You home, mommy, you can get the doll for me for the weekend. Mommy, you can get the doll for me for my birthday. Shut up. You shouldn't say that to the child. But that was the most important thing to you. And it wasn't just a doll or a little car. I'm exaggerating that example to state what is real. Get a little older, you might want a full-size car. You get a little older, you know, there's something that you desire. You want, hopefully, they're righteous things that feed back into your life. But now you're 40 or 50 or 60 years old and you think back to those times. And you're like, man, I wanted that thing so bad. Pfft, that's the least of my worries now. Now, pretty much, if you're thinking halfway right, you're trying to get away from the things that you were fighting to get when you were younger. Even when you were in your 20s and, man, I got to get this apartment. I got to get this condo. I got to get this mini mansion. Because you can just imagine all of the individuals who'll be running around like a harem inside of it because that's where your mind was. Then when you get to a certain age, you're like, I don't need to be maintaining all this. I got to sweep all these rooms and clean all these rugs and mow this lawn. And now you want to downsize. You see what I mean? What's really important to you? Don't take on so much that you stress yourself and fall into a depression. Not that that is the reason for it. That's just something I wanted to add in. But like Mark Paris said, he truly believes it's a spiritual battle. Yes, it is. Because the spiritual voids that we may have, not saying there's anything wrong with you if there is a void, but it's something that hasn't been addressed and we're growing and we're getting older and we're getting wiser, but that's something that hasn't been fed. It's going to show up on us and we're going to feel it. And if we don't understand that it is a spiritual battle or a component of the overall depression or mental stress we're feeling, we'll never get up out of that until we realize that, because just like I said earlier, I'm going to say it again. You sprain your ankle and Western medicine deals with just the ankle. Well, you had a little accident. You fall and bust your head. Yeah, okay. But when it's an illness, usually there's a spiritual and mental, emotional component to it that made that thing manifest in the physical, because we're all connected. Well, see, Wilby, that's wonderful. Now, see, that's wonderful. Wilbay 13 said, I am 22 and really want a wife and children. And way back in the day, that is what young men at 22 wanted if they didn't already have that. But a lot of young men, and I take my hat off to you, Wilbay 13, they weren't saying that. They don't want no wife. They want the pleasures that a wife can bring without the commitment. But for you to say you want a wife and children automatically tells me there's certain stresses that you're not going to bring on yourself because you want to go into a union that protects you from that. It doesn't mean you can't feel depressed and you're married in a happy marriage. There's something else maybe in your childhood that you didn't deal with. I'm not saying you personally, I'm just saying overall. But these unions protect you. There's nothing like knowing that you're out in the world and you're knocking out the world for your family. You're bringing home the bacon, so to say. We shouldn't say bacon because we shouldn't be eating bacon, but that's a term that we used back in the day. And you feel good as a man because you're providing for your wife and your children. And of course, in this day and age, sometimes both may have to work, but you have a wife and you're a man and you both know your roles. And you might be a little tired when you come home. But as soon as the key hits that lock, you hear a rustling behind the door. Nobody's fighting. It's the kids rushing to come down to the door and say, Daddy! And they're hugging you and they're climbing all over you. Man, that's the best feeling in the whole world. When they love you as a father, provider, protector, giver of wisdom. And your wife is there to support you as you support her. And you see the little girl's hair combed just right, and them little colorful balls and the little things they put in their hair in the nice dress they got on, because your wife took some of the money and went shopping for them, because maybe you didn't have the time, but you worked together as a unit. So you're not going to end up, unless something unfortunate happens from your desires. You have a wife and you have your children. They're healthy and they're alive. You won't know what it's like to be a depressed old pimp player who used women for pleasure only, but never committed to them. Now you find yourself over 50 years old, 55, 60 years old, and you didn't build anything with a woman and have the foundation. Yes, it's not for everybody just to grab any old woman. She's got to be worthy, just like you have to be worthy. But in a perfect world, which the world's not perfect, but we can perfect our world if we know what it is that we want. And don't just jump with anybody. See, that was my problem. I jumped before and grabbed up and regretted it. Couldn't do nothing about it. You see what I mean? So that will protect you from certain situations instead of being an old player. And now you're looking for somebody to take care of you and you're broken down after all the things or all the women that you went through. Many of them could have been good women, but you didn't want that. So looking back, until you find that one that you understand that you can interlock in your ideologies and temperament and goals and aspirations and really go down the list. Don't just let the feeling of love guide you. Oh, she's so pretty. I love her. She feels good next to me on the couch when we hug. I love her. Ask the questions. There's a book, and I got to find this book, but it was a book for people who are just about to get married. This was a thick book, and you had to ask the questions in every situation. And they had some humdinger of questions there that if you can get through that book as a couple, I would say you're on your way to a successful marriage, because they didn't leave no stone unturned. It got into the whole sex thing. They got into who's denying something from who's controlling who, I mean, it was deep. Peaceful Pulley, welcome on in, brother. Good to see you. Oh man, I'm getting ready to sign off in a little while. But I wanted to just say a few things, which I kind of went off topic. But we just talking now. Once we read the stuff and address the stuff. So again, I'm not a professional. And there are things beyond our control sometimes. There are things that we perceive that may not be actually real, but we perceive them, so that begins to be our reality. You drive out of your garage and the car is perfectly clean, but it's a rainy day, and you drive down a muddy road, and the car going back the other way splashes mud on your windshield, and the windshield wiper kind of gets most of it off, but it's still a film of mud and dirt on the windshield. And you don't have anything to wipe it off, but you can still see. But some people will say there's mud on the windshield, that's why my vision is blurred. Some people will say, not really, but I'm using this to prove a point, the world is dirty. Look at this. Everywhere I look in front of me, there's dirt. The world is dirty. No, it's not. There's mud on your windshield that needs to be off of it. See? So there are things that we can do to set ourselves up to be undergirded more. And there's things that we're not able to do. Perceptions and things that we are worn down. That's not our fault. We're trying to do the best that we can. But this modern day schedule, we weren't made for this. Your body doesn't adapt. Your mind doesn't adapt. The needs that we have don't adapt. We out here getting it on our own, pushing hard. That's why cocaine is so popular these days. You can stay up all night and work the extra shift. I know it's no good, but I have to push through this period. Now, our everyday lives are pushing through. Push, 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 push. Drop dead and they replace you and you're gone. And while you were pushing, how much did you enjoy? I say, not as a cure for depression or clinical depression. I can't say that. I'm not a professional. But I think a lot of what we experience along those lines would be reduced if we back off from this modern day society way of pushing ourselves to the limit. This is crazy. I've slowed down so much. And even still, me doing these shows and the stuff online, I still don't sometimes have enough time to get everything done. But I'm getting better. So when I sign off from this show, I'm going to go outside and get some air. Walk around nature for a little while. I got work to do. I don't have anything scheduled for later. Maybe I'll do something later, but I have a whole hell of a lot of work to do. And maybe I'll take the day off, still do work, but be out on the balcony in the sun. You know what I mean? Like, slow it down some. Is it really worth it? You know how many people I know that are not here with us right now, who have passed away for various reasons. They've transitioned for various reasons, and I can't say, oh, they transitioned too soon, but the ones I knew intimately, close, I don't mean intimately sex, but men and women that I've known close, that I knew a little bit more about their lives, and they were pushing so hard, and now look, they're gone. There was a brother who I knew from Tangelo Park. See, I don't forget those who are close to me. Brother Jerome, his last name was Gallon. Brother Jerome Gallon, whose roots were from Morocco. Most of his life, he grew up in America, so you couldn't tell by any different accent, but he never turned his back on his Moroccan roots. And he would tell me about his family. He was a guy who worked at Universal, Disney, both those places. part-time jobs, full-time jobs, worked a whole lot. But he was always pleasant. He was a guy who was so polite and so pleasant. It was refreshing, but it was to the point of people that didn't know him, like, are you for real? The guy was such a gentleman. And when he passed away, I cried for days, not straight, but like a rainstorm where you know this is like a rainstorm. It slows down a little bit. You go outside, run to the store, come back with no umbrella, and it comes down again for days. It hurt me. So we knew each other for years just off of the bus, because that 21 bus route that went through Tangelo Park, I believe it was Mandarin Drive or Mandarin Street or whatever. I remember some of these streets, and some people who live in Orlando like, yo, you really did drive the bus, man. I know, I live right there. When you came out of Tangelo Park, which was kind of looked at as a hood, small houses, Black people, some things went on, some things, but I knew the neighborhood. I could walk through there any time of day or night because people knew me, even though I didn't grow up over there. But coming out of there, it was International Drive, right there where the tourist area is. It was strange to me that way, but it was all right. So I remember Jerome one day, he was going to his job at Universal Studios, where my bus would go to. And there were a lot of people standing around, waiting for other buses, coming in, tourists, everything, tour buses. And there was a couple of pieces of trash that were on the ground, not too far from the garbage can. Well, he got off the bus after he said, hey, Lance, I'll see you later on when my shift is over. He walked over to the garbage can and picked up the stray litter and put it in the garbage can. He didn't look back at me to see if I was looking at him for me to say, oh, he's a great guy, he's picking up. He just did that. If it seemed like someone was down that he halfway knew on the bus, he would excuse himself from our conversation and he would go talk to them in a way of counsel. This man gave of himself. And it hurt me, the circumstances of his forced transition. You know what? Let me tell you, let's fast forward. Now, y'all know he's a great guy. And he wasn't aggressive. He was who he was. He wasn't gay, but he didn't have a chip on his shoulder, nothing to prove, like, I'm a man, I'm going to show you this. He was always a servant. And this is why I bring up Jerome Gallon's name out of respect, because he was somewhere else. I forgot what other part of Orlando that he was in. And he was speaking to a young lady. He was outside speaking to this young lady, and I could almost guarantee it was something to help her or to aid her. He was giving like that. This man was the closest thing to what people say is an angel. If it seemed like you were short on your fare, I've seen him pay the bus fare for people. It wasn't just a money thing. I'd be on the bus sometime and there might be a woman who couldn't handle her groceries and she lived halfway into the block. And I was ahead of time on schedule. He's like, Lance, just hold right here for a second. I'm going to help her to her door with these heavy groceries. He was always looking for excuses to help somebody. If we had more of that in our community would not suffer as much depression and much isolation and feeling as though we're alone. But now, in the bag-chasing, dog-eat-dog world of I gotta get mine, we don't have as much Jerome Gallons in our life. Man, this guy was talking to this woman. He was on the sidewalk. It was in front of her house, and she was halfway between the door of her house and the gate. They were nowhere near each other. I don't know what they were talking about, but rumors were going around that he was messing around with the woman. Neighbors said that they never saw this man before. He was like that. She might have been a coworker, I don't know. But a jealous boyfriend walked up behind him, pulled out his gun, and blew Jerome Gallon's brains out on the spot. and all he was doing was saying something to uplift her. I wasn't there, but it was proven that he was not messing with this woman. They check cell phone records. They check where you are. This man had a heavy work schedule, and I saw him. I saw him counsel young ladies on the bus that he knew. Your mama wouldn't approve of you dressing this way. Not loud. Please, sister, try to cover up a little bit. You're beautiful. You don't have to show that. Man, I took off from work the day of his funeral because I had to work. Couldn't believe it. And there's a piece of me that said, no matter what I go through, because I have a lot of what you would call haters. I have a lot of people that want to see my downfall, but I don't acknowledge them. They only validate that I'm doing something right in my life. If I was doing something wrong, if I was high on drugs or some wino or some womanizer who couldn't, man, we ain't paying the last on mine because they know they got some dirt on me already. But when you trying to ascend and trying to get better and ply your craft and make yourself better incrementally more than what you were the day before, here they come with their stuff. And even a man like Brother Jerome Gallon, whose voice I will never forget. I hear voices of the people who are gone. You know, sometimes some of us, it kind of gets warped, but it's like a tape recorder. If I think hard enough, I can imitate his voice where you can hear his voice. It's imprinted in me, as it is with so many people who have invested in me, large and small, not just handing me money. Hey, Mr. SCURV, give your son some of this for some candy or something. You know, let him go get some McDonald's. Just people who gave me advice, people who showed me by the example of how they walked without even saying a word to me. I took from that. And it's a mosaic. It's a collage of all the people. If you remember the Terminator episode, there was the one where you had, I think it was Terminator 2, where the guy, little skinny guy, he was a Terminator also. He was a more advanced thing, and he could melt and change and shape shift and all this stuff. And there was a point where they dropped him at the end of the movie into this boiling vat of something that would melt the metal that he was a part of. I don't know scientifically. But he would be able to touch people and assume their form. So he was like a shapeshifter. So I'm saying this to explain me. I'm not a shapeshifter, but when they dropped him into that vat, everybody that he assumed the form of, as he was boiling up, you'd see that security guard, you'd see that woman, you see that older man, you see that little boy. Everybody he shapeshifted in, you saw when they destroyed him in that boiling vat. It wasn't just water, it had to be some kind of chemical. It was in a factory. So I'm not that. But what you have to realize is that you have so many influences, negative and positive, but on the positive level, I acknowledge those faceless, nameless individuals all through my life. They had a name, they had a face. I remember their faces from a little boy coming on up. Those who fed into me for the positive that I still walk with. So wherever their energy is in this universe or other quantum dimension, they're going to get tax returns. They're going to get a percentage because they fed that into me, and the energy they, just like when you're a kid, tag you it. You got the cooties, I tagged you, my fingers are crossed. So they tagged me with positivity, and I'm it. They're not here, but I represent them, just like I represent Brother Jerome Gallon. I didn't know I was going to talk about him today. There's a lot of names that I'm going to bring up and share. And even if I ask you to repeat his name under your breath so something goes up to wherever his energy is and he feels that, yes, the life that I live is still bringing me back dividends. I believe in that. I believe in it, you to talk about, I must acknowledge my ancestors, but then I'm asking you to do something. Some of you, man, that's corny. I ain't doing that. Well, that's an ancestor. It might not be someone that you came in direct contact with, but we are a quantum people. How many times did you think about somebody and the phone rang and it was them? But we don't want to develop that unless we have the validation from somebody in a system who don't like us. Open up your mind. If women can get around each other and their periods synchronized, there's more to us even on a physical level. That's why I do not want to look at anybody and lock eyes with anybody who is a hater or who I know has a bad spirit. I don't want nobody touching me and hugging me and they have a bad spirit, even if they have a bad spirit towards somebody else and they haven't shown it toward me. That's eventually you're going to come and show me the same thing. I don't want to be a part of joining with your energy to go at somebody else. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Michael Jackson, remember? He made that song a long time ago because he figured out that everybody who smiles with you is not good for you. And I do believe, and I feel I know, I can say I know this. But just like Brother Mark Paris said, it's a spiritual battle. Spiritual energy. You don't want that residue on you. You don't want the spiritual mud on your windshield tainting how you see the world now. You hang out with a bunch of womanizers, you're just going to see women as a piece of ass after a while. Excuse my French, but that's what it is. You hang out with a bunch of winos, you might start out with half a little sip. You'll be hiding bottles behind the couch in your living room so your wife don't see it or your husband don't see it. You got to be careful who you average out with. Like I said, I'm a man, so I'm going to say it in the manly way. If I go to bed and have sex with a dumb woman, I wake up a little more stupid. Ladies, if you go to bed with a man and have sex, a man who's dumb, you're going to wake up a little more stupid. If the number 100 went to bed and had good sex with the number 50, it will wake up as the number 75. The number 50 gained. Huh? Because 100 is way more than 50. So you have something to gain from the 100. So people are predators out here. Not everybody, but they don't understand the spiritual laws and they're looking to see how they can devour something from you. That's why these days I'm only going to hang with people who are driven like me, who are motivated like me, who understand me and don't want to be around most of these entities out here. And you don't even have to be right next to me. You can be in another country on the other side of the world, but we communicate electronically. You can have a really wonderful, close relationship, a loving, spiritually balanced, supportive relationship. Relationship doesn't mean that you have to have the physical body next to you. Understand that. And the baby that gets more hugs can develop more so faster than the one that didn't get the hugs, but you can still get them baby hugs when you're an adult. Because we all have the little boy and the little girl inside of us that was hurt. You got to acknowledge that inner child. Because when those tears come in the middle of the night, usually it's that inner child that's crying. I got the little boy in me, and I know that there were things that hurt me when I was younger. It wasn't anything major. Yes, you know, the older cousin that made me perform oral on her when I was 5 years old. That made me a little twisted. But I'm okay with that because I understand now. But other than that, the little girl, the little boy, talk to that little girl. Talk to that little boy. It ain't no weakness. Pledge protection over the life of that little boy or little girl that you knew that you were and that you are, because it's part of you. You go back to your old neighborhood, your old country, the state you grew up in. You go back to the old house you used to live in. Maybe the family still has it. Maybe somebody else owns it, but that old tree that you used to climb is still there. And that tree had 3 branches on it. And it was low because, you know, to grab that branch, you were short. You climbed up and you had to grab it. Now the tree at that time was probably less than 2 stories high as the ceiling inside your house, but it was outside. Now it's 5 stories tall. Whoa, is that the same tree I used to climb? I don't think so. You ring the bell of the new owners or you ask your family, and they say, no, that tree was there when we bought the house 25 years ago. It was a lot shorter, but there's so much more branches on it. But guess what? It may take a little time, but if you look hard enough, you'll find that branch, unless it was cut off, but you'll find that branch that you used to climb, even though it has 25 more branches on the tree and it's so much bigger. Why am I saying this? Because as accomplished as you may be, as knowledgeable as you may be, world traveled, brilliant, older, you know more. That little girl, that little boy, it's still there. And you may lose that little boy or little girl in you in the shuffle of going toward life, but it's still there. Talk to them. You ain't crazy. Maybe you didn't have someone to talk to you when you were younger, when you were going through things that you perceived to be bad or stressful. It may not be, but you perceived it. It might have been actually something that was going on. But whatever it may be, please talk to, and I say it that way. What you mean talk to little boy, little girl? It's you. No. See yourself as a little girl, little boy you were. The innocent look on their face, the hurt. Be careful with them. Talk to them. Walk with them. Sometimes say, listen, I'm not going to, and imagine them next to you and you holding their hand and look at them in their face. You go through this practice is so healing. Say, listen. And if your name is Lance, or my name is Lance, and I'm talking to the young Lance, the 5-year-old Lance, or the 6-year-old Lance, say, listen, Lance, I'm not going to answer any phone calls today. I'm not, I'll take care of business for the next hour. And after that, it's me and you. It's me and you. And I'm going to take you, and we're going to do whatever it is that you want. If you want ice cream, I'm going to get you ice cream. If you want to go to the park, we'll go to the park. If you want to go to the movies, we'll go to the movies. And you know what? I want you to actually do it. We know that we don't see a physical person next to you, but if you want to go in there and go to a movie that's made for a child because a little child and you never had that, go do it. You see what I mean? You got to cater to that and acknowledge that. Love yourself. That's what it's really all about. Exactly. Because we have so many demons around us that instead of trying to put out the fires and pain that they have on the inside and dysfunctions, they want to put yours on fire, your house on fire, you on fire, attack you, smear you, run to other people to talk about you bad. And it's obvious they got their own demons because, that person they're attacking ain't paying them no mind. It's crazy what many of us do. But I just want you all to understand that aside from the pills that we may have to take for a time when things get extreme, we need to every day have a routine of self-healing, even if it's something that you say under your breath to the inner child. Even if it's doing a good deed for the people like Jerome Garland did. And it was unfortunate how he was taken off of this earth. But that should never stop you from being the wonderful person that you can be. Don't let the people around you or the atmosphere around you permeate into you and you become like them. Refuse to deal with these demons that are around you. Once you identify a person as a damn demon, do not acknowledge him. Don't say nothing to him, because once it's been proven, they're trying to smear your name or bring you down. They'll go in demonic remission for a little while to become your friend again and get a better position to bring you down and smear you and smear your character and even kill you if they could. Don't let them. You're here for a reason. You're here for a purpose. And you can't forfeit that reason and purpose, even if you don't know what it is, because a lot of us go through a certain amount of years in our life and don't even know what our purpose is. It's okay. Some of us know from the time we're 6 years old. Some of us don't know until we're 60. I kind of know what I'm here for, but there's little things with me. I'm like, there's got to be more than this. Let me figure it out. Figure it out at 60. Yeah. Some are late bloomers. Some are early bloomers. Some come out the womb just knowing, right? But it's not weakness to feel depression, experience depression. There's nothing wrong with you at the core when you're going through clinical depression. It's like a broken leg, except it may be a little mental, emotional, spiritual combinations and different proportions of those combinations. It may be more spiritual and less emotional. It might be more mental and a little bit more emotional and less spiritual. Let's not freak out trying to figure it out, but maintain yourself. When you feel overwhelmed, that's a call for you to maintain yourself. You should not get to that point. And yes, we do get to that point, but to decide that when you get to that point, hey, I got to push the rest of this week. I'm feeling overwhelmed and it's Wednesday and I know I got to go through Thursday and Friday. When Saturday comes, I need to sit down and unravel this thing for the whole weekend. And not just a Saturday and Sunday, forevermore. If you have close people, truly close people that love you and want the best for you, you can talk with them. But if you have people in your life where I can't talk to them about my problems, they're going to gossip about me, then you don't need to be around them at all. I don't do fake friendships. Either you real or you gone. Because if I can't be real with you, I'm going to be gone. Anyway, it's been a pleasure and an honor to be here with you. I know I didn't cover every single point. Let that be for the people who are going to school for that like years. I can't sit here years and you can't sit here years either. But if I could have said some things that stimulated you to think in a different way, that's even more healing for you than I did my job. I just passed on some information, made it a little entertaining on this journey that we have to improve ourselves. I'm not here to hate. I'm not here to talk about anybody or spread any news about anybody. There's enough of that going on out in the world. You know, so it's beautiful when we can come together and elevate ourselves in a way. And that's why I'm addicted to this in a good way, not a bad addiction. I went through the weekend, didn't even hold on Monday to Friday. No, we ran through Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Now it's Tuesday again. One of these days I might sleep a little later or have something to do. And I say, hey, later, I'll do my morning show later on today because I have to be at this appointment. Please bear with me if you don't see me, because you know I want to be here, you know? So anyway, much love to you all. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope to be back tomorrow. Maybe we'll come on later on and say something. I got a few things to do. Got to freshen up, eat a little more food, get out in the sun, contemplate some different things, and we make our choices and decisions and how we move forward. But always let it be where you're not making any decisions harshly off the cuff. Think of every aspect of it, because decisions can be made in a certain way that will affect our life. And we wonder why we didn't take a little more time in doing so. See? So anyway, much love to you all. I will talk to you later on. I'm always accessible. LANCESCURV out. And thank you for the blessing of your company today. It really makes a difference in my life. Peace.
Why are we called Negroes? Why are we deaf, dumb, and blind? Why is everybody making progress, yet we seem to be lagging so far behind? Why are we mistreated? Why are we in this condition, stripped of our name, our language, our culture, our God, and our religion? Here in America, all of our religious training has been gotten by the preacher. He has told us of a heaven way up in the sky. sky that we can't enjoy now, but rather after we die. But all of the years that we're living, for us there's nothing but hell, pain, torture, and misgiving. Yet the Bible speaks of a heaven filled with material luxury, which the white man and the preacher has right here, so we see. So my friend, take it for what it's worth. Your heaven and your hell is right here on this earth. So let's check back into history, which rewards all research and tells us plainly that before the white man gained entry to the East, he was living in the caves of Europe, a ravenous beast, eating juniper roots and eating flesh raw, till God sent Moses to civilize him and teach him the law. Then, following Marco Polo, an explorer, he gained entry into Asia and Africa. From China, he took silk and gunpowder. From India, he took jute, manganese, and rubber. He raped Africa of her diamonds and her gold. From the Mideast, he took barrels of oil untold, raping, robbing, and murdering everything in his path. The whole black world has tasted of the white man's wrath. So, my friend, it's not hard to tell. A white man's heaven is a black man's hell. America, we were living in the East. By the Nile River, we were living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes and slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is black man hell. When the white man came to America, he told the Indian, I am your white brother. He said, red man, I'll treat you the best. Yet and still he pushed the Indian further west with his white woman and fire water. Tricks and lies, he stole America. The original owner of this nation is cooped up on a reservation. So, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven, black man hell. He needed someone to work the land. His back was too weak. He needed you, black man, so he commissioned Sir John Hawkins to commit the world's most grievous sin, to take a man who's born to be free and bring him down to slavery, to sell a man as merchandise, on his body put a price. Oh, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is a black man hell.